Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. My name is Lucas, and sadly Eric couldn't make it here today because he was busy, but we'll be back tomorrow for another episode together. So today I'll be taking a look at Joe Biden's narrow list of VP picks. He has narrowed his list down to 6 candidates. We did a video similar to this yesterday. It was Eric and I. The funny thing was right after we uploaded that, yesterday we looked at the maps from ourprogress.org. Right after we uploaded that video, 1 hour later, we got the news: Biden's list shortened. Now, there is some candidates here that were not on yesterday's video, and there were some candidates on yesterday's video that are not on the short list. I'll be going through each of them. I'll also be toggling back and forth between the YPMS map as well, showing what kind of advantage each VP could bring. With that being said, let's get right into it. So, we have a total of 6 candidates, as mentioned before. We have Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Senator Kamala Harris of California, former National Security Advisor under Barack Obama, Susan Rice. We also have current Governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, the current Mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, as well as the current representative from Florida in the U.S. House of Representatives, Val Demings. There are some notable admissions. I'll go through 2 of them right now. So the first one is, of course, Stacey Abrams from Georgia. I'm gonna actually go to the Yatmas map now. Yatmas. So for those of you who don't know, she ran for governor in 2018 of Georgia, earned a lot of name recognition, nearly beat the former Secretary of State of Georgia, Brian Kemp, ultimately lost the election. She is a state legislature, or she was before 2019, actually before 2017, one of those years, don't remember clearly, but she was a state legislature in Florida. She was the minority leader for the Democrats in Georgia state legislature, and she kind of got a lot of name recognition, is considered to be a rising star in the Democratic Party, and gave the Democratic response to Donald Trump's State of the Union address in 2019. Now, I'll be honest here, I don't think, I wasn't expecting Stacey Abrams to move ahead to the next stage of his vetting process. And there's a clear reason why, and it's experience. I don't really think that a state legislature really has the experience to become vice president of the United States. This is especially important in this election, considering Joe Biden might not run in 2024, so he needs a vice president that is ready on day 1 to become president. Hasn't been a while since we had a state legislator become a president of the United States, so it's important to keep that in mind. Again, I really didn't think there was any shot for her. What she should have done, in my opinion, is she should have ran for Senate this year. She has a lot of name recognition. She probably would have won the Senate race, but she did not. She did not choose to run. She instead wants to be VP. I don't think that was a great decision for her. So again, no surprise. In the hypothetical that she was chosen, this doesn't really matter now. But I don't even think Georgia would have went to her. Would have went to Joe Biden. I think it probably would have been Till R still, or even toss him at best. Now we're going to head to our second notable admission on this list, which is Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. This is, again, definitely not a huge surprise to anyone. She came under fire recently because of the George Floyd protests, because she failed to prosecute the officer that would eventually kill George Floyd. Again, not expected. If she became the nominee, Joe Biden would not have done well in the general election. I'm not even going to plot out what she would have done, because really no surprise here. So let's head back to the list now. Let's start one by one here. Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. If we watched yesterday's video, we saw how much benefit she gave in a lot of states. She's from the state of Massachusetts. She's going to earn a lot of these more progressive states, those younger voters. That's one of Joe Biden's weaknesses. He cannot, his strength is his older voters. the younger voters usually go for more progressives, such as Bernie, Warren. So that would really help. She would be able to probably get states like in the Northeast. She would probably definitely be able to lock in the Northeast. Maybe not Maine. I think Maine, Allstate would still be pretty close. She would be able to probably get that in a likely margin. That seems about what Elizabeth Warren could do. But if you saw yesterday's video, she'll be getting help in almost every state because of those progressive votes. Obviously, I'm not going to plot that out right now because we got 6 candidates to go through. But Elizabeth Warren, technically speaking, is the best choice if you watched yesterday's video because she can unite the Democratic Party and help Joe Biden get elected. Now, two things actually. The first thing is the chance of Joe Biden choosing her is ultimately really low. He wants someone that agrees with his policies and his opinions. Elizabeth Warren is a progressive. It is highly unlikely that he chooses to choose a progressive simply because he already stated that he probably wants someone that's a moderate like him. The second thing to mention is a comment that we got in yesterday's video from Zachary. Shout out to Zachary, I guess, right now. But essentially, he left a comment saying, what would happen to Elizabeth Warren's Senate seat if she were to become the vice president after it's vacated? Who would fill it in? For those of you who don't know, here's some context. The current governor of Massachusetts is Republican Charlie Baker. It's pretty surprising considering how Democratic Massachusetts is, but we do have to remember that they have had Republican governors before. We've had, well, not me, but they've had Bill Weld as well as Mitt Romney. He made a good observation here that Charlie Baker is a Republican. He will have the power to nominate and select and appoint the senator that succeeds her, who at the moment is likely going to be a Republican if that were to happen, because he's a Republican. But I read two interesting things about that. First of all, Massachusetts has a large supermajority in their state legislature. I'm talking about in their state Senate. It's like 48 out of the 51 senators there are Democrats. And in the state assembly or House of Representatives, it's basically the same thing. It's a huge supermajority. And why is this important? This means that if they were to bring up a law and were to kind of change the rules a bit and say that Governor Baker must appoint a Democrat because to fill in the seat of the previous senator, that would likely be able to pass. And the reason is because they have a supermajority and they can submit the law, and then Governor Baker would probably veto it. But then if it came back to the state legislature for the veto override, they would have a 2/3 majority, and it would have been overridden. So that is important to keep in mind. Thank you for the question, for bringing that up, Zach, because it is likely that even if Elizabeth Warren gets chosen, she will probably be succeeded by a Democrat. Anyways, I went a little off topic there, but it was important to mention that. Let's head now to our next candidate here. We have Kamala Harris of California. Again, this is no surprise that she's on the list. She is a moderate. She is the #1 pick rated by most pollsters or news outlets, CNN, NBC, #1 pick for vice president. And the reason is because they have very similar views, as well as because they both ran for president. I'm saying both, but I mean that Kamala Harris ran for president. She has name recognition and she has supporters. The biggest issue with her, however, is being the former Attorney General of California. She got a lot of baggage. She got ripped by Tulsi Gabbard, who was during one of the presidential debates for all that baggage. Kamala Harris didn't really respond that well to that. So that is a huge issue for her if she does get chosen, especially with these Black Lives Matter protests happening, because Kamala Harris will be under a lot of scrutiny for siding with the cops sometimes during her tenure as Attorney General. Kamala Harris would probably be an interesting pick. She is a person of color. She's half black and she is half Indian. So that would be really interesting. Maybe she can get those colored people of color out more. And most of the time, those people vote for the Democrats. So again, she's from the state of California. Joe Biden needs no help winning the state of California. That would probably go to him. Not probably, certainly go to him. Because this is California. It is very blue. Probably would help in states with, especially these two states, Nevada and Arizona. Arizona would be a huge help to Joe Biden. Till makes sense. Yeah, these would be huge helps for Joe Biden because these two states are obviously bordering the state of California, and Kamala Harris can bring some help there. Get those Hispanic voters out in Arizona, and get Democratic voters out in Nevada as well. So that's interesting to take a look at. We'll be revisiting the state of Arizona with one of the future picks that we have. Alrighty, let's now head to Susan Rice. She currently resides in D.C. She, served as Barack Obama's former national security advisor. She does have a lot of executive experience, or not a lot, but she does have executive experience by being the national security advisor. She's considered to be one of the probably most qualified experience-wise than the other people on the list. The thing is, Susan Rice didn't really serve elected office that much. Obviously, she was appointed to these positions. And of course, the other issue with her is name recognition. She kind of lacks that name recognition like some of these other candidates do. So that will also be an issue. Obviously, she's from DC, needs zero help helping carrying district of DC. But yes, I do think she will probably help in the Northeast, but she doesn't really seem that logical of a pick for Joe Biden, considering that name recognition factor. Although she is an African American, that will absolutely help Joe Biden in states such as Georgia and North Carolina. But of course, name recognition is very important. Alrighty, I believe that's it for those three. Now, the Keisha Lance Bottoms is a very interesting one. Actually, a couple of hours ago, some news came out that a police officer shot an African American in a Wendy's drive-thru in the city of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms obviously is the governor of Atlanta. This might actually benefit her if she can respond well to this and maybe kind of gain support. That will definitely help her here. As I said earlier in this video, mayors do have some more experience than someone like Stacey Abrams, because she is a state legislator. Keisha Lance Bottoms has executive experience being the mayor of a relatively big city. It's not big like New York City or LA, but it's still a pretty big city. This will definitely play to her help. Also, she's an African American and will absolutely help in the state of Georgia. I do think Georgia might be a toss-up as a result to her help, and Florida would move closer as well. She doesn't have too much name recognition, and that is going to be a problem for her, though. So again, toss-up here. And now we're going to head to, I missed Val Demings, but okay, Val Demings. This was actually very interesting. In previous videos, we said this would probably benefit, but I actually read some news articles. There was one with the chairman of the Black Lives Matter movement saying that it would definitely be a pretty bad idea to choose Val Demings because she is a former cop as well as the former police chief of the city of Orlando in Florida. This might indeed be an issue, especially in this time period. It might actually hurt her chances of becoming the vice president. Again, she is from Florida, but she lacks the name recognition throughout the state of Florida. It's not really that guaranteed that if she becomes the nominee, Joe Biden will be able to carry the state of Florida. And the second issue is she is not too experienced. She is a two-term representative, not that experienced with elected offices, but obviously better than Keisha Lance Bottoms and former state representative Stacey Abrams. But overall, I do think she will end up helping a tiny bit in the state of Florida. I still think it will remain a toss-up. And Val Demings is an African-American. She could help some of the other places as well. Honestly, I feel like Georgia would still stay as a tilt D. However, North Carolina definitely would probably move to the toss-up column. It's in between toss-up and tilt R, but that's really debatable. And that seems to be it for that one. So, again, regional advantages, these candidates really help in those regions here. I forgot about to talk about something about Rice before, but she had some controversy about her response to the Benghazi attacks. We talked about this in our first video, but that could also be an issue for her. And our final one, one of the interesting ones, is Michelle Lujan Grisham. Before, actually a few weeks ago, Catherine Cortez Masto was the leading contender for being the Hispanic VP pick for Joe Biden. Obviously, that has changed. She declined to be vetted, which shocked a lot of people. But Michelle Lujan Grisham, who is a Latina, made the shortlist for the top 6. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to look at. A Hispanic would probably help Joe Biden a lot here. She's from the state of New Mexico that borders the state of Arizona, and Arizona now is a pretty contested state. Honestly, if she chooses Grissom, the state of Arizona might move to a lean. Yeah, it might move to a lean, maybe a till or a lean. But again, it will do a lot of help for Joe Biden, and it doesn't only do help for Joe Biden in the presidential election, but if she's able to bring out voters in the state of Arizona to vote for Biden, they could also be voting for Mark Kelly, which is another contested Senate race in Arizona. So this is really interesting to look at. A lot of people do want a Latina to be chosen as his vice president. And I feel like if she chooses a Latina, it might also bring out other voters that are people of color too, like the African Americans, maybe in the state of North Carolina where there is a pretty decent demographic there. That would probably also move to a toss-up, and so would the state of Georgia. So this is a very interesting top 6 short list. It's a pretty diverse one as well. We have one white woman, quite a few African American selections, and one Latina. Again, this is a really interesting list. Not too many surprises here. I'd probably say the biggest surprise here are probably Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is a mayor, and to an extent, Susan Rice. Yeah, this is probably one of the shorter videos for today. But when talking about the best pick, it might be Elizabeth Warren. But again, another issue it outlines here as well is that Warren is relatively older, 70 years old. He needs a VP in 2024. President in 2024. If Joe Biden doesn't decide to run, they need a pretty strong Democratic nominee. But again, Elizabeth Warren, likelihood of that happening is relatively low because, again, she's a progressive. Biden is moderate. He said he wanted someone that aligned with his views. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this update video. This is probably one of the shorter ones. I didn't check the time, but I do think it's one of the shorter ones. But thank you all so much for watching this video. We'll keep you all updated on this VP search. It's going to be very important. Joe Biden announced that he will want to get announcement out before August 1st, which is going to be here before you even know it. But again, this is very, very important because it will affect the election. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow. Oh, I guess I'm doing the see ya today. See ya!